up, everybody? This is Mr. Right Way. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Been away for a little while because I just got married. On this video today, I've got my friend G to the next level. Thank you so much for coming on the channel today. We're going to talk about games that we wish we had as a kid. Now, he's going to talk about the Super Nintendo, but I'm going to talk about games on the Sega Genesis. This is a Sega Genesis I have in my collection for a while now. And the games that I wanted for this system as a child, I couldn't get. We're going to talk about them.
You know, as I peer up my Sega wall behind here, you can tell I'm a Sega person. But I have to admit that there were times when I was, falling in love with the Sega Genesis, that there were some games on the Super NES that, I was jealous. I actually really wanted badly. My next door neighbor had a Super NES. I had the Genesis, so we got to swap games back and forth. But there were a handful of games that I was forever jealous that I couldn't get on a Sega console. So I definitely want to talk about a couple of them now. I think the first one I want to talk about is Donkey Kong Country. That was probably the game that I was the most jealous of not being able to get, because if you take a look at Donkey Kong Country, you're talking about retro game platforms that have aged tremendously well. It's Donkey Kong Country. I mean, the graphics were wonderful, the music was wonderful, just the speed of the game was it was so fast and so fluid, and you never really knew what was going to be coming up next. It was such a great game, and Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 are both great too. But I can definitely say that that was one that, as being a person, it's like, yeah, I had Sonic and we had some other games that were like that, but let's be real, none of them came close to Donkey Kong Country as far as that style of game. Now, as far as if it's your quality kind of game, YMMV, your experience may vary. But I'd say that Donkey Kong Country is still one of the Super NES's finest efforts.
One of the first games that I wish I had on the Sega Genesis, I'm going to give you guys a clue. And it has to do with this. No, it's not the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, but it is WWF Super WrestleMania. Now, WWF Super WrestleMania had everything the Super Nintendo version had, but it had one thing that put it over the top, and that's finishing moves. Each character had its own finishing move, just like in the WWF back in the day. I mean, everybody had a finishing move. And on the Super Nintendo, I hate to say it, but Nintendo don't. Sega does. Nintendo didn't. So I had to go with WWF Super WrestleMania because it was such a superior game. And also, too, it made you feel like you was a world champion.
Another one that I could really say, now this one's going to be kind of stupid to some of y'all, but one Super NES game that I was always jealous on was WCW Super Brawl Wrestling on Super NES, mainly because I was a WCW kid growing up. I mean, I liked the WWF too when I was a kid, but the sad thing about Sega owners is that we didn't get a single WCW game. Not one. We didn't get any WCW game. So everyone that actually came around, they were waving it in front of our face. Oh, look what we got, And but the thing is that, yeah, Super Brawl Wrestling, it's crap. It's actually a really bad game. But as a kid, I wanted it badly. I mean, mainly because it's like you had Ric Flair, you had Sting, you had Vader, which I loved Vader. I still love Vader. May he rest in peace. And it's like the game might not have been great back then. It's certainly not great now. But it is one that I was forever kind of jealous that I didn't get a chance to play, because even though my neighbor, he was also a wrestling fan too, but he had that, and we had the kind of really crappy WWF games until the arcade game, which was awesome. But yeah, it still kind of hurt not being able to get Super Brawl Wrestling.
So another game that I wanted on the Sega Genesis was X-Men 2. Now, like I said, I didn't have a Sega Genesis, so my cousin, he had one, and he had almost every game. I mean, he had so many games. He was on the child, so he had so many good games. But I remember we rented X-Men 2 from BulkButtonsForCheap Video back in the day. I got to play that game one time, and I was hooked. I mean, X-Men 2 Clone Wars was so great, so amazing. The graphics was like outstanding. The best X-Men games in the 16-bit era was on the Sega Genesis. The Super Nintendo had great games, great X-Men games, but to look that gritty, that comic book style that you really wanted, was on the Genesis, and I wanted that game so bad. But now I got it because, hey, I got a job now. So
Another one that I could say I was always kind of jealous were the Disney games that kind of came through on Super NES. The one specifically was Goof Troop. Goof Troop was one because I love the Goof Troop cartoon. I watched like every episode as far as the Disney Afternoon Collection goes. Goof Troop was one that it's a strange sort of game if you actually play it today. It's not your traditional like adventure game or action platformer. It's like a puzzle game. And it's even better with 2 players. And there wasn't really anything like that per se on the Genesis either, that I would say. And yeah, it was a great game. I think what Shinji Mikami actually worked on that too, right? I believe so. But yeah, Goof Troop was one that I was actually really kind of sad. Disney on the Genesis, I mean, if you take Mickey Mouse out of the equation, like Disney on the Genesis, just it didn't quite get there. Some of them are just like random, like Gargoyles and Pinocchio and Pocahontas, and it's like once you took Sega out of the equation, we didn't really have a whole lot of good Disney stuff on the Genesis. But on the Super NES, I mean, Capcom was like the masters of that. You know, whether you prefer Super NES Aladdin or Genesis Aladdin, like they were the masters of that. But Goof Troop, I think, was kind of the odd man out. It was the one that not many people expected to be that good, and it really is. So yeah, that was one that I'd say that I missed.
alright, so here's my weird game. I love pinball games. I don't know about it, I just love pinball games. I got so many pinball games from on PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, the Xbox 360. I mean, even on the Nintendo DS, which pinball games on the DS are fun. Even on the Vita. But it's one game that took 2 franchises and put them together. This guy right here had his own pinball game. That's right, Sonic Spinball. Now some people might say Sonic Spinball is such a horrible game. I rented that game after I got a Genesis, but I never was able to like afford the games. Were expensive when you didn't have a job and you got a Genesis. Like I got a Genesis for Christmas, and I wanted Sonic Spinball because I love playing Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and I love pinball games back in the day. And Sonic Spinball was just so fun. It was just amazing. And that's why I remember I didn't get to get it as a child, but man, I rented the heck out of that game after I got a Genesis. Finally got a Genesis for Christmas. I was so happy. So that's one of the games I wish I had back in the day.
The next one I could probably say is I'm gonna go to one that really hurt me, because after playing it in demos, playing it in the store, and again my neighbor having it, and I love this game so very much, and that's Star Fox. Star Fox is one that there was absolutely nothing like it on the Genesis, not even close. I mean, like we had one game that utilized a special SVP chip, and that was Virtual Racing. That was the only one that we got, but that's a racing game, you know, an arcade racing game at least. So there's not really a whole lot that you could do with that. Star Fox, it was so immersive. It's like, yes, the frame rate is low, but oddly, that's another one that really holds up, which is interesting. Now, granted, it doesn't hold up as well as Star Fox 64. But the original was one that I was just like forever jealous that I couldn't get. I was like, oh no, why can't we have anything like this on Genesis?
My last 2 games are Konami games. So what's the first one? I'm going to say the best one for last. You probably could already guess it, but the first one I'm going to talk about is Rocket Knight Adventures. My goodness, that game is so amazing. Rocket Knight Adventures, it has a little like, I don't know what is it, like a little marsupial or whatever. I still to this day do not know what that little animal is. Like a little kangaroo, but it's almost kind of like they put like a little kangaroo wherever the animal was, and they took Ghosts and Goblins, Arthur from Ghosts and Goblins, and they put them together and gave all these crazy moves, and the game is great. I mean, it's hard as heck. Today, I still haven't finished that game to this day, but the game is so amazing. The animation, how fast it is, how it plays, the soundtrack of the game. I mean, it does not play like a Sega Genesis game. Like back in the day, we always say Super Nintendo games had the prettier, like polished games, and the Sega Genesis games were like just the gritty and grimy and just like awesome. And it's like no frills, hardcore gameplay.
But the last and probably the biggest one on the Super NES that I love dearly and I still love dearly. It's my favorite game in the entire franchise, and that's The Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. And on the Genesis, like action RPGs and just RPGs in general, the Genesis was really lacking on. I mean, if there's one genre that the Super NES just slaps the Genesis upside the head on, it's RPGs. I mean, they got Square, the master of RPGs. Capcom put out awesome stuff. Enix put out awesome stuff. Nintendo even put out a couple of great RPGs, including the amazing Super Mario RPG. But as far as action RPGs goes, you can't get much better than Link to the Past. I mean, there's a reason why when people talk about the classic Zelda games, that's normally the one that those of us like Steve, like you and I, really just come back to. The retro styles of Zelda, you can't get any better than Link to the Past. Sorry, I mean, I know there's Majora's Mask, I know there's Ocarina of Time, I know there's Twilight Princess, and of course Breath of the Wild, but for me, it's all about Link to the Past. And yeah, it's still a wonderful game today. And it's like, as a Sega fan, it still kind of stings a bit, but you know what? As an adult, and you can get what you want, yeah, I got them now. I have all those games now. So, yeah, it's like, it's really kind of a sombering feeling looking back at the console wars like that. So, yeah, I'd probably say those are some Super Nintendo games that I'm honestly just that I couldn't have as a Sega kid. But would I trade it all away for losing my part of my childhood as being a Sega fan? Nah.
Alright, so my last game that I want to talk about on the Sega Genesis that I wish I had, and it's probably the #1 game on the Sega Genesis for me. Yeah, it even surpasses Sonic. Sorry, G, but it does surpass Sonic, and it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The HYPERSTONE Heist. The HYPERSTONE Heist was such a great game. It's kind of like I want to say a hack of Turtles in Time, which Turtles in Time on Super Nintendo is from the arcade, which they changed it up, and actually the Super Nintendo version is kind of better than the arcade. But then you have this game on the Sega Genesis. It's weird, right? But it works, and it's so good. I mean, so many things about this game I keep going on, from like the music to the different levels, even different bosses and stuff, and then the gameplay of it is like super hard. I mean, you can come to one point where you have to fight almost every boss in the game, and it just gets and going and going and going. It's great. If you haven't played that game and you're a Turtles fan, you don't even have to be a Turtles fan. Just own that game, play that game. I promise you, that game, you will love it. It is such a great game. So that's my last game. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that list. Hope you enjoyed looking at the video and just hearing our stories from our childhood, the games that we really did want as a child. And now that we're adult, we actually have them, and probably you're in the same boat. So let me know down in the comment section what games that you wanted on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know. What should I cover? Should I cover like hardware? Should we cover more physical games? You know, digital games? I mean, what would you like to see? This is for you. We're making this for you. So again, G, thank you so much for coming on the channel. You're my homie. Thank you so much, and I hope to return the favor to you one day soon. But everybody, thank you so much for watching. It means so much. And always remember to do it the right way. See you next time, guys. Peace out.